Hello, Stephen. A warm welcome to the conversation with Media for Growth, and thank you so much for accepting our request to speak on the subject of AI, automation, and OOH.
Thank you, Rajiv, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Stephen, you spoke at the recent World Out of Home Organization Global Congress in Hong Kong, where you said that if AI is used properly, it can be a growth driver for the industry. And at the same time, it can democratize the media channel and clear the hurdles that slow down the general transactional, creative, and strategic process. So, looking ahead, do you see AI actually integrating a little more seamlessly with OH?
Ultimately, yes. I think before we get to that stage, there's a lot of work to do and a lot of things to explore, and most likely a lot of mistakes that will be made. My talk in Hong Kong was specifically aimed at around introducing where AI is already being developed and can make a difference to the whole value chain actually within media. So from our brands and client side through the agency models into the out-of-home business and all of the different functions that we have. So yes, AI will eventually be seamlessly integrated, but it will take a bit of an evolution. So I predict we're probably looking at something between 2 to 5 years before AI is fully integrated and really adding value. And until then, there'll be integrations and there'll be somewhere it adds value very quickly, and somewhere I think there'll be caution and mistakes will be made, but in the eventual learning for it to be an additive benefit to the industry.
Oh, so Stephen, I think when it comes to the discussion around AI, there are always two sides to the discussion. One side that would warmly welcome the integration of AI into their respective businesses. But on the other side, there are also those who talk about the challenges of bringing AI into a business, maybe from a skill perspective or from a variety of other challenges that can come about, including data privacy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, scale is going to be one area. If you need a dedicated resource to explore it and see where it fits in, so you'll definitely need to have the right people looking after it, and that can take away from the day job. So appreciate that scale can have an effect. I think the more difficult challenge really is people being aware of how AI really works and what the risks can be if you're not aware of how it works. So in really simple terms, every time a member of your team would use AI, let's say to answer a client brief or to get help with a client brief, if they were to input into that question to AI, something along the lines of Coca-Cola launching a new drinks brand called, I don't know, Decaf Coke, for example, you have just told AI and effectively the world that Coke are launching a new product. And you would likely, or your managers would have likely signed an NDA under a client brief to keep all of that confidential. So that's a small example of where you're looking to use AI to help you in your day job, but you've been tripped over by the fact of not fully understanding how AI works. So every question and input into AI feeds the AI database. It's not a static search function of looking up on what's on the internet. It's a learning, generative, continuous element of intelligence that's growing and learning all the time. Now, it can be made even far worse than that. So if you may use your client brief, if you then get a response, which you try to enhance by saying, now, please provide me the answer using this following information. And that information is related to your locations with your audience data. And your business has paid hundreds of thousands of pounds for audience data to stand it apart and to be able to market and sell itself effectively. What you've just done is given away all of that data for free to somebody. Because then somebody else on the other side of the world could then say, please make me a comparison between X company and Y company, or give me the highest audience ranking locations in this vicinity, and everything pops up. And then you lose actual control of your business model and your route to market completely inadvertently and completely by mistake, but through ignorance. So those are just two examples of where needing to know how AI works is the first thing. And what I talk about when I say be aware and do due diligence. So education is a key part. And of course, smaller companies might be more susceptible to this if they don't take the time to dedicate resource and explore intelligently before diving into saying, hey, we're now using AI. We're an AI-enabled business and out of home. But be very careful.
Right, Stephen, I think that's very, very important. And the way you have highlighted, I'm sure those are very, very insightful inputs on the subject. Stephen, while we are looking at a gradual integration of AI in the business, what would be a good starting point?
So a good starting point is, I would say, for an out-of-home business, is on the creative side.
Okay.
And, I am a firm believer that AI will never replace human-made great creativity. But I also believe, despite some of the warnings I've given, that AI can be an extremely useful tool. And where it can be useful to is idea generation at the outset rather than idea completion. And what I mean by that is asking tools such as Midjourney to help create an initial idea or give you different versions of something that you're exploring can save you a lot of time in that initial idea generation or initial concept generation, shall I say, to which you can then apply your human skill as a designer to enhance the creative. That's one aspect. The other aspect, I touched on this in Hong Kong as well, which is regarding the fact that digital out-of-home screens come in all shapes and sizes, different aspect ratios, and a stumbling block in some of the automated trading is that lots of different copy needs to be produced to run an effective campaign via some of the SSPs and DSPs that are out there, and it can be a stumbling block. Whereas AI and its the creative tools can help very quickly change aspect ratios and do so in a way that actually maintains the creative integrity of the ad and saves hours of time in terms of creative skill that's needed, and therefore lots of money in terms of what people can charge when you need to create different versions of the same ad to work on different types of screens.
Absolutely. While we move on this journey of AI, would AOH firms in general would be required to have new skill sets on board, or can the existing people be equipped with the necessary skills to be able to work in an AI-driven environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it goes across different parts of the business. So immediately, I would say the creative teams and the design teams would be more than capable of using the AI tools that exist today to their advantage to save time and be more effective in what they do. I think they'll probably need a bit of training for our planning and insight teams as to how best to use AI when they're looking at different plans and site selections. But ultimately, they will also benefit and save a lot of time on drawing up responses for basic administrative tasks, summarizing audiences, plotting where the sites are in different combinations based on different hours of the day. AI can significantly improve their timing, but they'll likely need to be trained on how to do so. But I go back to my earliest point, which is most people's understanding and use of AI today is via one of the ChatGPT type platforms where you're asking it questions and it's giving you answers that are portrayed to make your life easier. If people take it from their personal life into their business life, there's a serious amount of training and AI policy that needs to be implemented such that they don't inadvertently ruin or impact the business's business model, as well as ultimately, if you take a really negative long-term view, remove the need for their job. Because if AI is able to give you the response for a client brief, and AI has got all the site information and can optimize the timings of when is best to target the audience that's requested in the brief, then actually what is a salesperson doing? Because then from the buy side, they can simply have an AI bot doing so. Now, for me, that is a nightmare situation. I would never believe that we'd get to that situation. But there's a theoretical possibility that if you're just paying salespeople to use AI and they're doing so in that fashion, then it could lead to, well, eventually you don't need the people. So I think everyone's got to wake up to that fact, which is it needs to be a tool. And I closed on this in Hong Kong, which is use AI, don't let AI use you. because ultimately if it uses you, then there isn't really a need for you in the business. So again, sorry to end negatively, but yes, absolutely, training and the skill set on how to use AI will be critical. And I dare say that a lot of businesses out there, not just out of home, that are currently working on their AI policy of what is and isn't permitted by the use of all members of their team.
Great. Stephen, in the foreseeable future, AI and automation, would those be something that the larger OH firms use compared to the smaller firms, or is it something that is easily accessible to all?
I think it's easy accessible to all. I don't believe, having talked to a lot of people in the industry, that even the large players are developing their own AI platforms. They take years, if not decades, to produce and build up, and ChatGPT and Google have been at it for years in the background. So no, I think there is a level playing field, whether you're a small out-of-home player or a large one. It will just come down to the resource and time it takes you to discover the tools that are out there, how best to use them. And I dare say the more entrepreneurial, smaller ones could even move quicker in terms of their use because of their sort of more speedy and less corporate style to adopting new technologies. But they do need to be careful of the risks as they exist in this one. So both sets of large and small businesses will be needing to heed that message of professional skepticism as you approach AI platforms.
All right. What is your own experience at Ocean with regard to plans for AI and automation?
Yeah, so everything I'm talking to you is something that we're already considering. So our AI policy is in draft form. It's going through all the different iterations internally. We've already given webinars to every member of the team. That is compulsory attendance to learn where AI can help and where it can be a hindrance. So it's already being used mostly within our design teams. And I mentioned this in Hong Kong with all of the extra tools. It's also being used in our innovation team, so where AI can help bring quite cool creative campaigns to life. So I think I touched on this out in Hong Kong, and it's part of our labs offering, where AI can take your image and create different versions of you and then put you up on the screen. That then creates a social media amplification moment. So AI is the backdrop to all of those things, but it's hidden. It's a tool that we're using rather than allowing it to use us. So that's what's going on there. And then talking with other platforms around, okay, where can we create best use of some of our data, but in a protected environment. So a lot of AI platforms themselves have recognized that companies are skeptical and concerned about the use of AI in their businesses, and are therefore trying to create walled garden versions of their platform that allow you to use it with confidence that what you ask it to do will not then form part of the database of information that others can then use. So going back to my earlier example, you can ask it a question using your own company's data with confidence that that data will not be used outside of any other user in the platform. Now, that remains to be tested. It's quite a new concept. They are talking to us about those type of things, but it takes an element of faith and trust that there isn't a glitch in the system, because this is one of those sort of, if there's a hack between one side of the AI platform and the other one, before you know it, the piece of paper you've signed is worthless and your business model is at risk. So it's quite a high risk factor. But those are the type of things, and there's lots of others, but I won't be talking about those in public.
Right. Finally, Stephen, for years, OH has been striving to gain a double-digit share of the ad spends. Do you think that with AI and automation, that opportunity really comes on the scene?
Yes, I think that automation and programmatic have been high up the agenda and have certainly opened up conversations with different part of the buy side rather than the traditional way of buying. I think out of home always needs to make sure that it's easy to buy, and traditionally it hasn't been easy to buy. So anything that automates the administrative and the buy side process is only a good thing. And a lot of the buy side, excuse me, over the last decade, if you think about the type of people and the skill sets that are pushing all of the significant ad dollars into digital, they do speak a different language. They're used to using platforms, and the out-of-home way is still in a very much person-to-person relationship way. So absolutely, automation is key to helping drive that and potentially fishing in a different pond of money. I would also say that programmatic alongside digital screens is something that we can push as another way in which you can use out-of-home effectively, and allow those trade desks to buy as and when they want to. Now, if it had been the sort of panacea to growing out-of-home from 5% to 10%, then I do think it would have happened by now. There's been significant investment in these platforms. I won't name any of them, but there are big firms out there now providing the DSP and SSP platforms. There's been lots of communication with the buy side on their trading desks. And part of it comes down to actually the buy side have yet to work out, and we have yet to make sure that it goes to the right place on the buy side. So is out-of-home still within out-of-home, or should we look at the digital form that can be bought through the trade desk, the same guys that are buying digital and online? So no one's really owning it yet on the buy side. So just bringing it back, AI can help speed up those automation developments. They can make programmatic even more intelligent rather than just necessarily rules-based or triggers-based. And therefore, it can only be a good thing. But I wouldn't want to oversell AI as the next version of automation and programmatic that will take out-of-home from a global 5% of all media to 10%. I don't believe that to be the case. I do believe, though, that it makes the internal resource and will keep us at pace with the lots of the other media channels that are out there.
Great thoughts, Stephen. Great insights on the subject. And we can expect to see many of these things really taking shape across the global OH landscape. Thank you so much for talking to us today on this particular subject, and we look forward to many more conversations with you. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Likewise. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you for having me.